A poor woman accidentally slept with the most ruthless billionaire CEO. Now he won't let her go. What was supposed to be one harmless night to survive eviction turns into a nightmare she never saw coming. She's broke, desperate, and just trying to protect her child. But the man she met isn't just wealthy, he's feared. By morning, she thinks it's over. By nightfall, her bank account is frozen, her job is gone, and a black car is waiting outside. The billionaire gives her a chilling choice: stay by his side under a private contract, or watch her life quietly fall apart. But as she moves into his world of power and control, something unexpected happens. She doesn't break. She pushes back, and she starts uncovering a truth so dark it makes her question if the night they shared was ever an accident at all. So when love begins to grow where fear once lived, will she escape with her dignity, or will his obsession destroy them both? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now, and if this story speaks to you, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. The knock came just after sunrise, sharp and final, like a door closing on a life Camilla had tried to hold together with prayer and patience. She stood in the narrow kitchen of the apartment, one hand gripping a chipped mug of coffee gone cold. The other hand rested on the counter, steadying her breath. Outside the thin door, a man cleared his throat. Papers rustled. A second knock followed, louder than the first. "Ma'am," the voice said, "we're here to enforce the notice." Camilla closed her eyes. She had known this moment would come. The notice had been taped to the door 3 weeks ago, the red letters shouting "Final." She had called every number she could find: churches, charities, old friends who were barely getting by themselves. She had prayed at night with Matteo curled against her side, his small fingers clutching her shirt like it was a promise she could keep. But prayers didn't always stop doors from opening. "Mom!" Matteo's voice drifted in from the bedroom, still thick with sleep. "Is it morning?" "Yes, baby," Camilla said, forcing her voice to stay soft. "It's morning." She set the mug down and walked to the bedroom. Matteo sat up on the mattress they shared, rubbing his eyes. He was 7, too young to understand eviction notices, but old enough to feel fear when it filled a room. His curls stuck up on one side, and the faded superhero shirt he slept in hung loose on his small frame. "Why are you dressed?" he asked. Camilla knelt in front of him and smoothed his hair. "We're going on a little adventure today." He frowned. "Like the park?" "Not exactly." She smiled anyway. "But we'll be together. That's what matters." The knock came again. This time there was no patience in it. Camilla stood and took a deep breath. She walked to the door and opened it. 2 men stood in the hallway. One held a clipboard. The other avoided her eyes. The smell of old carpet and cleaning spray filled the space between them. "You have 10 minutes, the man with the clipboard said, his voice flat. "We'll need the keys." Camilla nodded. She did not argue. She had learned long ago that begging only made people uncomfortable, and uncomfortable people turned away faster. She closed the door and leaned against it for one quiet second. Her chest hurt, but she swallowed the pain down. Matteo needed calm, not tears. They packed in silence. 2 duffel bags, 1 backpack, clothes folded tight, Matteo's school notebook, a worn Bible with loose pages, a photo of Matteo as a baby, smiling wide, his hands reaching for the world. When they were done, Camilla took one last look around the apartment. The peeling paint, the cracked window she had taped every winter, the corner where Matteo had learned to read out loud. It had never been much, but it had been theirs. She handed the keys over without a word. The hallway felt longer on the way out. Neighbors' doors stayed closed. No one said goodbye. The stairwell echoed with each step, the sound of leaving. Outside, the morning air was cool. A bus hissed past on the street. Life kept moving. Matteo held her hand tight. "Where are we going now?" Camilla looked down at him. Somewhere safe. It was a lie she hoped would become true. By late morning, they sat in the lobby of a budget motel on the edge of town. The carpet smelled like old smoke and cleaning soap. A blinking television played a morning show no one was watching. Camilla counted the cash in her wallet twice before sliding it across the counter. "One night," the clerk said. "Checkout is 11 tomorrow." Camilla nodded. One night was all she could afford. One night was better than none. The room was small. 2 beds, a table with 1 chair, a bathroom with a dripping faucet. Matteo jumped onto one of the beds and laughed, bouncing like it was a game. "Mum, look," he said. "It's squishy." Camilla smiled, even as her chest tightened. "Careful," she said. "You'll break it." She sat on the edge of the other bed and let the bags fall at her feet. The quiet hit her then. The kind of quiet that comes after something is lost. She checked her phone. No new messages. No missed calls. The job application she had sent the night before still showed under review. Rent money was gone. Savings were gone. Tomorrow loomed like a wall she could not climb. Matteo grew quiet. He sat beside her, his feet not touching the floor. "Did we do something wrong?" he asked. Camilla turned to him. Her heart broke a little more. "No," she said firmly. "No, baby. Sometimes life is hard, even when you do everything right." He leaned into her. "Are you scared?" She hesitated. Then she nodded. "A little." He wrapped his arms around her waist. "It's okay," he said. "I'm here." The words nearly undid her. That evening, after sharing a cheap meal from the corner store, Matteo fell asleep early. The day had worn him out. Camilla tucked the thin blanket around him and sat at the small table by the window. Outside, the neon motel sign flickered on and off. Red light spilled through the glass, painting the room in tired colors. Camilla opened her phone and began scrolling. Job listings, temporary work, cleaning shifts, overnight warehouses. She filled out forms with shaking fingers. Each one asked for an address. Each one asked for stability she did not have. Hours passed. The room grew quiet except for Matteo's breathing and the hum of traffic outside. Just as she was about to give up, an ad caught her eye. Discreet stand-in date. 1 evening. Cash paid immediately. No experience required. She frowned. It looked strange, too vague. She clicked anyway. The description was short. Professional appearance required. Confidentiality expected. No long-term contact. Payment listed at the bottom made her breath catch. It was more than she could earn in a week. Maybe 2. Her first instinct was to close the page. This was not her world. She had always survived by staying small, staying safe, staying honest. But then she looked at Matteo. His face was peaceful in sleep, unaware of the storm waiting just outside the door. Camilla thought of the shelter lines, the waiting lists, the way people looked through you when you asked for help too many times. She whispered a prayer. Not for riches, not for ease, just for a door that would open. Her finger hovered over the screen. This is just one night, she told herself. Just one. She filled out the form with care. No lies, just enough truth to get through. When she pressed submit, her heart raced like she had stepped off a ledge. The confirmation email came faster than she expected. We will be in touch. Camilla set the phone down and closed her eyes. The room felt smaller, the choice heavier. She stood and went to Matteo's side. She brushed a kiss across his forehead and smoothed the blanket. Whatever happens, she whispered, I will protect you. Outside, the motel sign flickered again, and somewhere beyond the thin walls and quiet prayers, A path was already forming, one that would change everything. The call came the next morning while Camilla was brushing Matteo's hair in the motel bathroom. The brush snagged on a knot, and Matteo winced. "Ow! Sorry, baby," she said quickly, gentling her hand. "Hold still. I'm almost done." Her phone buzzed on the counter. Once, then again. Camilla glanced at the screen. Unknown number. Her stomach tightened. She answered with a quiet, careful voice. "Hello." A woman spoke, crisp and businesslike. "Is this the applicant from last night?" Camilla's throat went dry. "Yes." "Good. You've been selected for a one-evening assignment." The woman said, "You will arrive at the address we send at 6:30 p.m. sharp. You will wear a simple black dress and closed-toe shoes. No bright colors, no large jewelry, hair neat, makeup light. You will speak only when spoken to." Camilla gripped the edge of the sink. "What is this exactly?" "A stand-in date," the woman said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. "Dinner, presents, discretion. Your client values privacy." "Will I be safe?" Camilla asked. The question came out sharper than she meant. There was a pause. "You will be safe if you follow instructions." The woman replied, "Your payment will be transferred within 1 hour after the evening ends. Do not attempt to contact the client afterward. Do not take photos. Do not share details. If you breach confidentiality, the consequences will be severe." Camilla's heart hammered. "Okay." The woman's tone softened just a fraction. "If you are uncertain, you may decline." Camilla looked through the bathroom doorway at Matteo, sitting on the bed swinging his legs, humming to himself. His shoes were worn at the toes. His backpack had a torn strap. He had asked last night if they were going home soon. Camilla swallowed. "I'll do it." "Good," the woman said. "We will send the address in 1 hour. Goodbye." The line went dead. Camilla stared at her reflection. Her eyes looked too tired. Her cheekbones stood out sharper than they used to. She looked like someone trying to hold up a roof alone. Matteo peered into the bathroom. "Who was that?" Camilla forced a smile. "Just someone about a job." His face brightened. "A job? "Yes," she said, though her chest felt tight. "A job. By late morning, Camilla made a call she did not want to make. A church volunteer named Ms. Ruth had helped them once before, when Matteo had the flu and Camilla couldn't afford medicine. Ms. Ruth was kind, but she didn't pity people. She listened. She prayed. She acted. When Ms. Ruth answered, Camilla's voice shook. "Hi, Ms. Ruth, it's Camilla." "Oh, honey," Ms. Ruth said right away, like she could hear the trouble through the phone. "Where are you?" Camilla explained in short sentences. Eviction, motel, one-night job, the need for someone to watch Matteo. There was a quiet pause. Then Ms. Ruth said, steady as a rock, "Bring him to me. You hear me? Bring him." Camilla blinked hard. "Thank you." Ms. Ruth's voice grew firm. "And Camilla, you don't have to tell me everything, but you do have to promise me you'll come back to get your boy." Camilla swallowed. "I promise." "Good," Ms. Ruth said. "That's all I need. Bring him over after lunch." That afternoon, Camilla walked Matteo up the steps of Ms. Ruth's small house. The porch had potted plants and a worn rocking chair. Wind chimes tinkled softly. It smelled like soap and warm bread. Ms. Ruth opened the door before Camilla knocked. She was in her late 50s, with silver strands in her hair and strong arms that looked like they had held up a lot of people in life. "There's my young man," Ms. Ruth said, bending down to Matteo's level. "Come here." Matteo stepped forward slowly, then let her hug him. He clung for a second, then relaxed. Camilla's throat burned. She crouched beside him. "I'll be back in the morning," she told him. "Okay?" Matteo looked up, searching her face. "Promise?" "I promise," Camilla said again, holding his small hands in hers. "Ms. Ruth is going to take good care of you." Ms. Ruth straightened. "He'll be fed and loved," she said, like an oath. "And he'll sleep in clean sheets. Go do what you need to do." Camilla nodded, but her eyes stung as she stood. Matteo followed her to the porch steps. "Mom," he whispered, like he didn't want Ms. Ruth to hear. "Are you going to a scary job?" Camilla froze. She knelt. "No," she lied softly. "I'm just going to a fancy dinner." Matteo frowned. "Fancy like rich people?" Camilla managed a small smile. "Yes, fancy like that." He thought for a moment, then said, "Don't let them be mean to you." Camilla pulled him into her arms and held him tight. "I won't," she whispered. "I won't." She walked away before her tears could fall in front of him. Back at the motel, the address arrived exactly when the woman had promised. Camilla stared at it. A street name she had heard on the news. A tall glass building downtown. One of those places with guards at the door and cars that cost more than her whole life. She opened her duffel bag and pulled out the only black dress she owned. It was simple, plain, and a little too tight in the shoulders. She had worn it once to a funeral. She smoothed it carefully, like she could iron fear out of fabric. By 5:30 she was dressed, hair pulled back neatly, makeup light, shoes cleaned with a damp towel. She stood in front of the mirror and tried to breathe. Just one night, she whispered to herself. One dinner, one payment, then home to Matteo. She ordered a rideshare with trembling fingers. The car arrived in 10 minutes. The driver didn't speak much. Camilla watched the city pass through the window. The streets changed as they moved closer to downtown. The signs got brighter. The buildings grew taller. The people on the sidewalks wore coats that looked expensive, even if it wasn't cold. When the car stopped, Camilla looked up and felt her stomach drop. The building was massive, glass and steel, shining like a fortress. A doorman stood at the entrance, straight-backed, watching every person who approached. Behind him, the lobby glowed gold and white. Camilla stepped out, her heels clicking against the sidewalk. She felt every eye. She felt her skin in a way she hated, like she was being measured, judged, sorted. She walked to the door. The doorman lifted a hand. "Name?" Camilla's mouth went dry. She remembered the rules. Speak only when spoken to. She swallowed. "Camilla," she said softly. "I'm expected." The doorman glanced at a tablet. His expression changed just slightly. He nodded and stepped aside. "Up to the penthouse. Elevator on the right." Camilla stepped into the lobby, her heart pounding. The floors were marble. The air smelled like clean flowers. Everything was too bright, too polished, too far from her world. She crossed the lobby and reached the elevator. A security guard pressed a button without asking. The doors slid shut. The elevator rose in silence. Each second felt like a drumbeat. When the doors opened, Camilla stepped out into a hallway lined with art and soft lighting. At the end stood a door that looked like it belonged to a castle. She took a deep breath and knocked. The door opened almost immediately. A man stood there, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a dark suit that fit him like armor. His face was handsome in a hard way. Clean jaw, sharp eyes. No smile. The kind of look that made people straighten their backs without realizing it. His gaze swept over Camilla like he was reading a file. "You're on time," he said. "Yes," Camilla managed. He stepped aside. "Come in." Camilla entered. The space inside was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows. City lights spilling in like a sea of stars. A dining table set for two. Soft music in the background, barely there. She turned back to him, unsure where to stand. He studied her again, longer this time. Then he said, voice low, "You will sit, you will eat, you will speak when you choose, but you will not lie. Understood?" Camilla blinked. That wasn't what the agency told her. No one had mentioned honesty. "Yes," she said carefully. He nodded once. "Good." He did not introduce himself. He did not offer a drink. He moved with slow control, like the room belonged to his will. Camilla sat at the table, hands folded in her lap to hide their shaking. The meal arrived quickly, brought by a silent attendant who never looked up. The plates were beautiful. The food smelled rich and warm. Camilla forced herself to take a bite. For a while, the only sounds were forks and soft music. Then the man spoke. "Why did you accept this job?" Camilla's throat tightened. The safe answer was money. The true answer was my son. She looked at him. "Because I needed it," she said simply. His eyes narrowed a fraction. "For yourself?" Camilla thought of Matteo's face on the porch. "Don't let them be mean to you." She lifted her chin. "For my child," she said. Something changed in the man's face, so fast it almost wasn't there. A flicker, a small crack. He leaned back slightly. "A child," he repeated, like the word was foreign. Camilla stayed quiet. Minutes passed. More questions came, each one strangely direct. Where had she grown up? What did she want? What did she believe in? Camilla answered in simple truths. She didn't overshare. She didn't perform. She spoke like a woman who had nothing left to pretend with. At one point, he said, "Most people in this city want something from me." Camilla met his eyes. "I don't want you," she said, then realized how it sounded and added quickly, "I mean, I don't want your power." His mouth twitched, almost a smile. Almost. Then his gaze turned serious again. "And what do you want?" Camilla's voice softened. "I want my son to sleep without fear." The room went quiet. The city lights shimmered beyond the glass. For the first time, his eyes looked less like steel and more like something human, tired, lonely. He spoke slowly. "Eat," he said. "You're too thin." Camilla let out a small breath she didn't know she had been holding. She ate. Time moved in a strange way after that. The fear didn't vanish, but it shifted. The dinner became less of a transaction and more like two people sitting in the same storm, different sides of the same glass. Later he walked her to the door. Camilla turned to face him, unsure what came next. She expected a demand, a touch, a rule. Instead, he said quietly, "Tonight stays here." Camilla nodded. "Yes." He looked at her for a long moment. "You can leave now," he said, and she did. The elevator ride down felt like falling through a dream. When she stepped back onto the sidewalk, the air felt colder. The city felt louder. Camilla got into another rideshare and stared out the window, her mind spinning. She should have felt relieved. Instead, her heart felt marked. Near dawn, she returned to the motel. She sat on the edge of the bed and checked her phone. A payment notification popped up. The money was there. Real. Enough to breathe again. Camilla pressed her fingers to her lips. "Thank you," she whispered, not sure who she was thanking. God, mercy, luck. She lay down without undressing and stared at the ceiling until morning light crept in. The night had been one evening, just like they said. But somewhere deep inside, Camilla felt a terrible sense that it was not over, not even close. Morning came too fast. Camilla woke to the sound of traffic outside the motel and the low hum of the air unit rattling against the wall. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Then everything rushed back at once. The eviction, the penthouse, the man's steady eyes, the weight of his questions. She sat up slowly and checked her phone. The money was still there. A tight breath left her chest. It hadn't been a dream. Camilla stood and splashed water on her face, then dressed quickly. There was no time to linger in thoughts. Matteo was waiting. By 8 o'clock, she was walking up the familiar steps to Ms. Ruth's house. The door opened before she knocked, just like the day before. "There you are," Ms. Ruth said with a warm smile. "He's eating cereal like it's a holiday." Matteo appeared behind her, bowl in hand. "Mom!" He ran into Camilla's arms so hard she almost lost her balance. She laughed, holding him tight, breathing in the clean smell of soap and milk. "You okay?" he asked, pulling back to study her face. "Yes," Camilla said, and for the first time in days it felt true. "I'm okay." Ms. Ruth watched them closely. "You look tired," she said gently. "But not broken." Camilla smiled. "Not broken," she agreed. They didn't stay long. Camilla thanked Ms. Ruth again and promised to call later. By mid-morning, Camilla and Matteo were back at the motel, packing their bags. "Are we going home now?" Matteo asked. Camilla paused. She knelt in front of him. "We're going somewhere better," she said carefully. "Just for a little while." He nodded, trusting her without question. That trust pressed heavy on her heart. By noon, Camilla sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, calling through job leads with fresh hope. She left messages. She answered questions. She spoke clearly, steadying her voice. Then the first strange thing happened. Her bank app froze while loading. She tried again. An error message appeared. "That's weird," she muttered. She refreshed the screen. Nothing. A minute later, her phone rang. "Hello?" She answered. "Hi, this is regarding the position you applied for yesterday," a man said. "I'm sorry, but the role is no longer available." "Oh," Camilla said, disappointed but calm. "Okay, thank you for letting me know." She hung up and tried another number. This time, the call didn't even ring. It went straight to voicemail. Then her phone buzzed again, this time with a text from the motel front desk. "Please see us immediately regarding your stay." Camilla's stomach dropped. She gathered Matteo's hand and walked to the front office. The clerk from the day before stood behind the counter, arms crossed. "There's a problem with your payment," the clerk said. Camilla frowned. "I paid for tonight already." The clerk shook her head. "Your card was flagged. We can't keep you here without valid payment." Camilla felt the room tilt. "Flagged how?" "I don't know," the clerk said, already losing patience. "But you'll need to check out." Camilla swallowed hard. She stepped aside and opened her banking app again. This time the screen loaded, but her balance was marked under review. Her chest tightened. "This must be a mistake," she said. "I just got paid." The clerk shrugged. "You'll have to take it up with your bank." Camilla nodded, even though her hands were shaking. She gathered their bags and walked back outside. Matteo looked up at her. "Mom?" "It's okay," Camilla said, though her voice sounded thin even to her own ears. "We're just changing plans." They sat on a bench across the street. Camilla called the bank. After a long hold, a robotic voice informed her that her account was temporarily restricted and under review for unusual activity. "How long?" Camilla asked. 24 to 48 hours, the voice replied. Camilla stared at the street. 48 hours might as well have been forever. She ended the call and took a deep breath. This didn't make sense. The payment had gone through cleanly. There was nothing unusual about it. Unless... Her stomach sank. She thought of the penthouse, the controlled way the man spoke, the way the doorman's expression had changed when he checked the tablet. The power in the room, quiet and heavy. A chill ran through her. By mid-afternoon, clouds rolled in. The sky darkened, and the air grew heavy with the promise of rain. Camilla walked Matteo to a nearby park, needing space to think. Matteo climbed the jungle gym while Camilla sat on a bench, phone in hand, trying every number she could think of. No luck. Then she noticed it. A black luxury car parked across the street from the park. It had been there when they arrived, and it was still there now. Camilla's pulse quickened. She told herself she was imagining things. Rich cars existed. This was a city. But when they left the park and walked 2 blocks, the car rolled forward slowly, keeping pace. Camilla stopped. The car stopped. Her mouth went dry. "Mom," Matteo said softly, tugging her sleeve. "Why is that car following us?" Her heart thudded hard. She forced herself to stay calm. "It's probably just traffic," she said, though she knew better. The car door opened. A man stepped out. He wore a grey suit and moved with quiet purpose. He was in his 40s, calm-faced, with eyes that took everything in at once. "Camilla," he said politely. She stiffened. "Do I know you?" He gave a small, respectful nod. "I work for the man you met last night." Matteo pressed closer to her side. "I don't want any trouble," Camilla said quickly. "The job is done. I followed the rules." "Yes," the man said. "You did. This is not about punishment." "Then what is it about?" Camilla asked, her voice tight. "About unfinished business," the man replied. "My employer would like to speak with you. Tonight." Camilla shook her head. "No, I have a child. I need to figure things out." The man's expression did not change. "Everything you're dealing with right now can be resolved," he said. "Your housing, your finances, your son's education." Camilla stared at him. "How do you know about my son?" The man paused, then answered honestly. "Because my employer does not act without full knowledge." A cold wave of fear washed over her. "No," Camilla said. "I'm done." The man studied her for a moment, then nodded. "That is your choice," he said. "But understand this. Things will not improve unless you speak with him." Matteo's hand tightened in hers. "When?" Camilla asked quietly. "Tonight," the man said. 8 o'clock. You will be escorted." Camilla swallowed. "And if I refuse?" The man's voice stayed calm. "Then the obstacles you're facing will remain." Rain began to fall, light at first, then heavier. Drops darkened, the sidewalk around them. Camilla looked down at Matteo. He looked back up, eyes wide but steady. She straightened her shoulders. "I'll come," she said, "but my son does not leave my side." The man nodded. "That has already been arranged." Her breath caught. "Arranged how?" "You'll see," he said, opening the car door. "Please." Camilla hesitated, then climbed inside, pulling Matteo with her. The door closed with a soft, final sound. As the car pulled away, Camilla stared out the window at the rain-streaked city. The one night she thought she could walk away from had followed her into the light. And this time, it wasn't asking. The ride downtown felt longer than it had the night before. Rain streaked across the windows in long, slanted lines, turning streetlights into blurred halos. Camilla sat stiffly in the back seat, Matteo pressed against her side. She wrapped one arm around him, holding him close, feeling the steady beat of his heart through his jacket. No one spoke. The man in the front seat stared ahead, hands folded neatly in his lap. The driver moved through traffic with calm precision. The car smelled faintly of leather and something clean, like soap. "Are we in trouble?" Matteo whispered. Camilla leaned down, her lips close to his ear. "No," she said softly. "I'm right here." The words were for herself, as much as for him. When the car pulled to a stop, Camilla looked up and realized they were not at the penthouse building. This place was different. Lower. Wider. All glass and stone, lit from the inside like a quiet command center. They were escorted through a private entrance and down a hallway lined with dark wood and soft lighting. Every step echoed. At the end of the hall, a door opened. The man from the night before stood inside. He looked the same, controlled, composed, dressed in a dark suit that seemed to absorb the light. But his eyes shifted when they landed on Matteo. "You didn't mention a child," he said, his voice low. Camilla stepped forward slightly, placing herself between them. "You didn't ask." The man studied her, then the boy. Matteo stared back, curious but wary. "How old are you?" the man asked. 7, Matteo said, holding Camilla's hand tighter. The man nodded once. "You may sit," he said, gesturing to a sofa near the window. Camilla hesitated, then guided Matteo to the seat. She did not sit. She stayed standing, shoulders squared. "You're ruining my life," she said, the words tumbling out before fear could stop them. "My money, my housing, my job chances. I followed every rule." "Yes," the man said calmly, "and that is why you are here." Camilla stared at him. "That makes no sense." He moved to the desk and rested his hands on the surface. "I don't allow loose ends," he said. "People come into my world for a reason. They don't leave without consequence." Matteo shifted. "Mom," he whispered. Camilla took a breath. "What do you want?" The man reached into a folder and slid a document across the desk. "A contract," he said. 6 months. You live under my protection. You follow basic rules. In return, your life stabilizes." Camilla did not touch the paper. "And if I say no?" He met her gaze. "Then the instability continues." Her chest burned. "That's a threat. It's reality," he replied. "Power exists whether you approve of it or not." Camilla laughed, sharp and bitter. "You think money makes you God." Something flickered across his face, gone almost instantly. Matteo spoke up, his small voice cutting through the tension. "Why are you being mean to my mom?" The room went still. The man looked at Matteo again, really looked this time. "I am not being mean," he said slowly. "I am offering security." Matteo frowned. "We don't want your security. We want to go home." Camilla's throat tightened. She placed a hand on Matteo's shoulder. "There is no home right now," the man said quietly. Camilla felt anger rise, hot and fierce. "You don't get to say that." The man exhaled, long and controlled. "Sit," he said to Camilla. "Please." She hesitated, then sat beside Matteo. He slid the contract closer. "Your son will be enrolled in a private school," he continued. "Healthcare covered, safe housing, no more uncertainty." Camilla looked at the paper, but did not read it yet. "And what do you get?" His eyes darkened. "You." Her stomach dropped. "As what?" "As a constant," he said. "A presence. Someone who does not lie to me." She shook her head. "You can't buy people." "I already did," he said evenly. "You accepted my money." Camilla felt sick. "For one night. And now," he said, "you are more." Silence filled the room. Rain tapped against the glass. Matteo tugged her sleeve. "Mom," he whispered, "I'm scared." That did it. Camilla pulled him close and held him tight. She looked back at the man, her eyes wet but fierce. "I will not be owned," she said. "Not by you, not by anyone." The man watched her for a long moment. Then he spoke, softer than before. "You misunderstand. This is not ownership. This is containment." She laughed again, but there was no humor in it. "That's worse." He leaned back in his chair. "You have until morning," he said. "If you sign, everything resolves. If you don't, I step away. And my life falls apart." Camilla said. Yes, he replied. Camilla picked up the contract at last. The pages felt heavy in her hands. Can we leave now? She asked. The man nodded. My assistant will take you where you need to go. As they were escorted out, Camilla glanced back once. The man stood alone in the room, watching them go. Not angry, not cruel, just certain. Outside, the rain had slowed to a mist. The car door closed behind them. Matteo leaned against her. Are we going to be okay? Camilla stared ahead into the dark city. I don't know, she said honestly. But as the car pulled away, she realized something that frightened her more than the threat itself. He was right. Right now, he held every door, and by morning, she would have to decide which ones to walk through. Camilla did not sleep. She lay awake on the narrow bed at Ms. Ruth's house, staring at the ceiling fan as it turned in slow, uneven circles. The room was quiet except for the soft creak of the house settling and the distant sound of traffic outside. Matteo slept beside her on a borrowed mattress, curled on his side, one hand tucked under his cheek. Every time he shifted, Camilla's heart jumped. The contract sat folded on the small table near the window. She had not opened it since leaving the office. She didn't need to. She already knew what it offered. Safety wrapped in chains, stability bought with silence, a future that looked clean on paper and heavy in the soul. Camilla slipped out of bed and knelt on the floor. She rested her forehead against the mattress and whispered a prayer so quiet it barely made sound. I don't know what to do, she said, but I know who I am. Please don't let me lose that. Memories came uninvited. Her mother working 2 jobs and still finding time to hum hymns while cooking. The nights Camilla had slept in her car in her 20s, promising herself she would never let her child feel that fear. The way Matteo had looked at her in that glass building, trusting her to choose right. Morning crept in slowly. By 6, light filtered through the curtains. Matteo stirred and blinked awake. Mom, I'm here, Camilla said at once. He sat up. Are we moving again? She took a breath. Yes, she said, but not like before. He studied her face. Are you sad? Camilla smiled, small but real. I'm strong, she said. Sometimes strong looks like sad. Ms. Ruth knocked softly and stepped inside. She took one look at Camilla's face and understood. She didn't ask questions. She poured coffee and set out toast. They ate quietly. Before leaving, Ms. Ruth pulled Camilla aside. Whatever you choose, she said, her voice steady. Don't forget who you answer to at the end of the day. Camilla nodded. I won't. The car arrived at 9. The same black car, the same calm driver, the same silent assistant. Camilla helped Matteo into the back seat and buckled him in herself. As the car pulled onto the road, Camilla unfolded the contract at last. It was written in clean, simple language. 6 months of residence, privacy guaranteed, financial support, educational placement for her son, healthcare, transportation, protection. At the bottom, one line stood out. Termination of agreement subject to sole discretion of the employer. Her chest tightened. They arrived at the estate just before 10. This place was not the penthouse. It was a wide, gated property on the edge of the city, surrounded by tall trees and quiet roads. The house itself was large but not flashy. Stone and glass blended together like it had grown there. Inside, everything was calm. Soft light. Clean air. No echoing footsteps. The man waited in a study lined with books. He stood when they entered. You came, he said. Camilla nodded. I did. Matteo looked around, eyes wide. This is big, he whispered. The man crouched slightly, bringing himself closer to Matteo's level. You'll have your own room, he said, and a school nearby. Matteo glanced at Camilla. She gave a small nod. The man straightened and turned to her. Have you decided? Camilla met his gaze. Her hands were steady now. Yes, she said. She walked to the desk and placed the signed contract down between them. I'm doing this for my son, she said, not for you, and I will not lie. Not to you, not for you. He picked up the paper and glanced at it. That's all I ask. She shook her head. No, that's all you get. For a moment, something like surprise crossed his face. He nodded once. Very well. A staff member appeared to take Matteo to see his room. Matteo hesitated, then hugged Camilla tight. I'll be right here, she whispered. When they were alone, Camilla exhaled. This doesn't make you my owner, she said. No, the man replied. It makes you my responsibility. She didn't know which was worse. That evening, Camilla stood in the guest suite assigned to her. The room was large but plain. No luxury meant to impress, just space. Quiet. Safety. She unpacked slowly. Matteo returned smiling, excited about the bed and the desk and the books waiting for him. As night fell, Camilla sat on the edge of the bed and watched her son sleep, safe for the first time in days. Her life had stabilized. But as she listened to the distant quiet of the estate, Camilla understood something clearly. This was not an ending. It was the beginning of a battle, one not of fear, but of conscience, and she intended to win it without losing herself. Camilla woke before the sun. The room was still dark, the air cool and quiet in a way she was not used to. No sirens, no shouting through thin walls, no footsteps in the hallway. For a moment, the peace felt unreal, like she had stepped into someone else's life by mistake. She sat up slowly and listened. Nothing. She rose from the bed and crossed the room, pulling the curtain back just enough to see the trees outside. Mist clung to the branches. Birds moved softly in the early light. The world here did not rush. Behind her, Matteo stirred. "Mum, I'm here," she said right away. He sat up, rubbing his eyes. "Are we still here?" "Yes," Camilla said. She walked back and brushed his hair back from his forehead. "For now." He nodded, then smiled sleepily. "I like my room." Her heart softened. "I'm glad." They dressed and followed the schedule left neatly on the desk. Breakfast was served in a sunlit dining room at 8 sharp. Matteo stared at the long table, eyes wide, then looked back at Camilla for direction. "Sit," she said gently. "It's okay." The food was simple. Eggs, toast, fruit. No show, no pressure. Staff moved quietly, polite but distant. No one lingered. No one stared. The man entered halfway through the meal. He did not announce himself. He simply took a seat at the far end of the table. His presence changed the room without a word. Shoulders straightened. Movement slowed. Camilla noticed. He glanced at Matteo. "Did you sleep well?" Matteo nodded. "Yes, sir." Camilla felt a small jolt at the word "sir," but she said nothing. "That won't be necessary," the man said evenly. "You can speak normally here." Matteo looked at Camilla again. She gave a small nod. "Okay," he said. The man turned his attention to Camilla. "There are rules," he said. "Few, but important." She folded her napkin carefully. "I assumed there would be." "You will have freedom of movement," he continued, "but I will know where you are. My schedule takes priority, and I do not tolerate chaos." Camilla met his gaze. "I don't create chaos," she said. A pause. "No," he agreed. "You don't." After breakfast, Matteo was taken to meet the tutor assigned to help him prepare for school placement. Camilla watched him go, his backpack new and clean on his shoulders. He waved before disappearing down the hall. When she turned back, the man was waiting. "Come," he said. "I want you to see how this works." They walked through the estate, and into a sleek office wing attached to the house. Screens glowed softly. Assistants moved in and out, eyes down, voices low. Camilla felt it then. The tension. People did not relax here. They performed. She stood quietly as meetings unfolded. Numbers, deadlines, decisions made in clipped sentences. At one point, a young man stood across from the desk, hands shaking as he explained a mistake. The man listened without expression. "You failed," he said. "You cost me time. I'm sorry." The man stammered. "It won't happen again." "It already did." The man replied, "You're dismissed." The young man's face went pale. He nodded and left, shoulders slumped. Camilla felt heat rise in her chest. She waited until the room cleared. "That was unnecessary," she said. The man looked at her slowly. "Failure is expensive. So are people," Camilla said, "and you discard them just as fast." His jaw tightened. "You're here to observe, not judge?" Camilla held her ground. "If you didn't want honesty, you chose the wrong person." Silence stretched between them. For a moment she thought he would explode. Instead, he turned away. That night, Camilla lay in bed, listening to the quiet again. The safety was real. So was the cost. Down the hall, lights glowed beneath the man's office door long after midnight. For the first time since arriving, Camilla realized something important. He had power over her life, but she had something he did not. Peace. The second day followed a rhythm. Camilla woke early again, though she had slept more than she had in weeks. The quiet still felt strange, but it no longer scared her. She dressed Matteo for breakfast, tying his shoes while he told her about the books he had seen in the study room. "They're bigger than the library at school," he said, eyes bright. Camilla smiled. "That's good. Books are doors." At breakfast, the man was already seated. He read from a tablet, barely looking up as they entered. Matteo sat straight, trying to copy the calm posture of the adults around him. "You're seeing the tutor again today," the man said to Matteo. "After that, you'll visit the school." Matteo looked at Camilla. "Really?" "Yes," Camilla said. "You'll do great." The man's eyes lingered on Camilla for a moment. "You will have time this afternoon," he said. "Use it." "For what?" she asked. He shrugged slightly. "Whatever matters to you." She almost laughed. In a place where every step was measured, the idea of freedom felt fragile. By late morning, Camilla walked the grounds alone. Gravel crunched beneath her shoes as she followed a path between tall trees. She breathed deeply, letting the cool air fill her lungs. For the first time in days, she did not feel hunted. But the peace did not last. When she returned to the main house, she passed through the office wing again. A door stood open. Inside, 2 assistants whispered urgently over a screen. Camilla slowed without meaning to. "Housing project shut down by end of week," one said. "Residents notified this morning." Camilla stopped. The other assistant sighed. Orders came straight from the top. Camilla's chest tightened. She knew that project. She had stood in line there once, holding Matteo's hand, grateful for a warm meal and a place to sit without being asked to move along. She did not knock. She walked straight into the office. The man looked up, startled by her sudden presence. "This is not—" "You're closing the East River housing project," Camilla said. "Why?" He leaned back. "It's inefficient." "People live there," she said. "Families, elderly folks, veterans." "I am aware," he said coolly. "It no longer serves my interests." Camilla felt anger rise, sharp and clean. "It served mine," she said, "when I had nowhere else to go." That gave him pause. He studied her. "You lived there?" "Yes," she said. "Before Matteo, before I learned how fast the ground can disappear." Silence filled the room. The assistant slipped out quietly. "You make decisions like numbers don't breathe," Camilla said. "But they do, and one day you'll be old, or weak, or alone, and you'll want mercy." His eyes darkened. "Mercy is a luxury." "No," Camilla said softly. "It's a choice." He said nothing. That evening, Matteo returned from the school visit grinning. "They have a playground," he announced. "And computers." Camilla hugged him, relief flooding her chest. Later that night, as Camilla prepared for bed, a message appeared on her phone. One line, no explanation. Project review initiated, no closures pending. Camilla stared at the screen. Down the hall, the man sat alone in his office, staring at an old photograph pulled from a drawer, a woman with kind eyes and a firm mouth standing in front of a small house. For the first time in years, he did not sleep easily. And for the first time since Camilla arrived, something inside him shifted. Quiet, unseen, but real. The next morning felt different. Camilla noticed it the moment she stepped into the dining room. The air was lighter, not relaxed exactly, but less sharp. Staff moved with the same quiet care, yet their shoulders were not as tight. Even the sunlight seemed warmer as it spilled across the table. The man arrived later than usual. He took his seat without his tablet. That alone felt strange. Matteo chatted about the school visit, his words tumbling over one another. "They have a reading corner," he said, "and the teacher said I ask good questions. That's important," the man replied. His voice was steady, but his attention stayed on Matteo longer than before. "Questions mean you're thinking." Matteo beamed. Camilla watched closely. She did not comment. She had learned not to rush moments like this. After breakfast, the man turned to her. "Walk with me," he said. She followed him outside. The gravel path curved toward the edge of the property, where trees opened to a wide view of the city below. Cars moved like small dots in the distance. From here, everything looked orderly, controlled. "This is where I come when I need to think," he said. Camilla folded her arms against the morning chill. "Does it help?" "Usually," he replied. "Lately, no." She waited. He spoke again, slower this time. "You disrupted a process yesterday." "I told the truth," Camilla said. "Yes," he said. "That's the problem." She raised an eyebrow. "Most people would say that's the solution." He almost smiled. Almost. "My mother used to say something like that," he said quietly. She believed people mattered more than systems. Camilla turned to him. "What happened to her?" He was silent for a long moment. Then, "She died when I was young. We lost everything not long after." Camilla nodded, understanding more than he knew. "So you built something no one could take?" "Yes," he said, "and I made sure it would never need mercy." Camilla met his gaze. "You still do." The words hung between them. That afternoon, Camilla accompanied him to a public event. Cameras flashed, voices rose. He moved through it all with practiced ease. She stayed one step behind, quiet, but present. In a private room afterward, a board member raised concerns about the housing project delay. The man paused, then said, "We'll fund it through the winter." The room went still. Camilla felt her breath catch. That night, as she tucked Matteo into bed, he asked, "Is the serious man nicer now?" Camilla smiled softly. "He's learning," she said. Down the hall, the man sat awake, staring at city lights through glass. For the first time, power did not feel like enough. And for the first time, Camilla allowed herself a small, careful hope. The change did not announce itself loudly. It moved in quietly, like a door left open where one had always been closed. Camilla noticed it in small ways throughout the day. An assistant smiled instead of flinching. A meeting ended without raised voices. The man paused before speaking, as if weighing more than numbers. That afternoon, Camilla sat in the library while Matteo worked on reading exercises with his tutor. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, warming the wooden floors. For the first time since signing the contract, Camilla felt her shoulders relax. A message appeared on her phone. "Join me for dinner tonight." No staff. She stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed back a single word. Okay. Dinner was served in a smaller room, not the formal dining hall. The table was set simply. 2 plates. Soft light. No music. Camilla arrived first and stood by the window, watching the sky turn orange and pink over the trees. When the man entered, he did not wear a suit. Just a dark shirt, sleeves rolled to his forearms. He looked human. "You didn't bring your tablet," Camilla said before she could stop herself. "I wanted to hear myself think," he replied. They ate in quiet at first. The silence felt different now, not sharp, not heavy. After a while he spoke. "I reviewed the housing records." Camilla looked up. "And?" "You were there longer than I realized," he said. "You followed the rules, you worked, you still lost your place." "That happens," she said simply. "It shouldn't," he replied. Camilla set her fork down. "Why are you telling me this?" He leaned back slightly. "Because I don't like not understanding things, and you make me see things I avoided." Her chest tightened. "I didn't come here to change you." "No," he said, "but you are." The words landed between them, fragile and powerful. Later they walked outside together. The air was cool, the stars faint but visible. For a moment, Camilla forgot the contract. Forgot the power imbalance. They were just 2 people standing in the dark. "I grew up afraid," he said suddenly. "I learned that control keeps fear quiet." Camilla nodded. "It also keeps love out." He looked at her then, really looked at her. "Do you believe people can change?" She answered without hesitation. "I believe they can choose to." Silence stretched. Something warm bloomed in Camilla's chest, hope, dangerous and bright. That night, as she lay in bed, she felt something she had not felt in a long time. Happiness. Not loud, not certain, but real. Down the hall, the man slept for the first full night in years, unaware that the peak of peace often comes just before the fall. The morning began quietly. Too quietly. Camilla woke with a strange weight in her chest, the kind that came without warning. The room was bright with early sun, but the peace from the night before felt fragile now, like glass stretched too thin. She dressed and walked down the hall, meaning to check on Matteo before breakfast. His door was open. He sat at the desk, coloring carefully, tongue between his teeth in concentration. "Morning," Camilla said. He looked up and smiled. "The tutor said I'm doing really good." "I'm proud of you," she said, kissing the top of his head. She left the room and headed toward the kitchen. As she passed the office wing, something caught her eye. A tablet lay on a side table just inside an open door. The screen was lit. Camilla slowed. She did not mean to stop. She did not mean to look. But the words on the screen pulled her in like gravity. Eviction Assistance Review. Subject Camilla R. Her heart skipped. She stepped closer, her breath shallow. The screen showed dates, notes, timelines. And then she saw it. A line marked Intervention Authorized, dated 2 weeks before her eviction. Another note followed. Objective. Increase financial pressure. Monitor response. Camilla felt the room tilt. She scrolled, hands shaking now. There it was in plain language, stripped of kindness, stripped of doubt. The eviction, the timing, the agency ad appearing in her feed. It had not been chance. It had been designed. Her ears rang. The world narrowed to the soft hum of the building around her. "So that's how you choose," she whispered. Footsteps sounded behind her. She turned. The man stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "You shouldn't be in here," he said. Camilla laughed softly, broken. "You shouldn't have been in my life." Silence stretched between them, heavy and final. "You planned it," she said. "You pushed me until I had no choices left." His jaw tightened. "I needed to see who you were." Her eyes filled, but she did not let the tears fall. "I was already someone," she said. "You just didn't trust that without breaking me first." He exhaled slowly. "It was a test." "A test?" Her voice rose. "You tested my hunger, my fear, my child's safety." "I never meant to hurt him," he said. "You did," she replied. "You hurt me, and that hurt him." She stepped past him, walking fast now. Her legs felt weak, but her resolve hardened with every step. She packed quickly. Clothes, shoes, Matteo's books. Her hands moved on instinct. Matteo appeared in the doorway, confused. "Mom, what's wrong?" Camilla knelt in front of him, forcing her voice steady. "We're leaving." "But I like it here," he said softly. Camilla swallowed hard. "I know, but some places cost too much." The man stood in the hall, watching. "This contract is still in effect," he said. Camilla stood, facing him fully now. "Not anymore." "You can't just—" "I can," she said, "because no matter what you control, you don't own my conscience." She took Matteo's hand and walked toward the door. "Camilla," he said, her name heavy with something like regret. She did not turn back. The car took them away before noon. As the estate disappeared behind them, Camilla stared out the window, tears finally falling. The happiness she had tasted was gone, and in its place was truth. Down the road, the man stood alone in the quiet house, staring at the tablet still glowing on the table. For the first time in his life, power felt like failure. The house felt hollow the moment they left. The silence was not the peaceful kind that had wrapped the estate in the early mornings. This silence pressed down, thick and heavy, like air before a storm that never broke. The man stood alone in the main hallway long after the car carrying Camilla and her son disappeared beyond the gates. No one spoke to him. They rarely did unless spoken to first. He walked back into the office wing slowly, as if moving too fast might make something worse. The tablet still lay on the side table, its screen dim now, but not dark. He picked it up and stared at it without touching anything. The words were still there in his mind, burned sharp. Increase financial pressure, monitor response. He had written those words himself, calmly, clinically. At the time, they had felt clean, necessary, just another controlled variable in a world he refused to let surprise him. Now they felt like a stain he could not scrub out. He lowered himself into the chair behind the desk and sat there, unmoving. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Outside, the day continued. Phones rang in distant rooms. Assistants moved carefully, sensing something was wrong but not knowing what. Finally, the door opened a crack. His senior assistant stepped inside, cautious. "Sir?" The man did not look up. "What?" "The board is requesting an update on your availability this afternoon." He closed his eyes. Availability, as if he were a machine. "Cancel everything," he said. The assistant hesitated. "All of it?" "Yes," he replied. "All of it." The assistant nodded and left without another word. The man leaned back and stared at the ceiling. For the first time in years, his thoughts did not organize themselves into plans or counters or outcomes. They scattered. He saw Camilla's face as she stood in that office. Not afraid, not begging, just disappointed. hurt in a way that did not scream, but cut deeper. I was already someone. The words echoed. He had told himself the test was harmless. That pressure revealed truth, that if she broke, she was no different from the rest. And if she didn't, if she stood firm, then she was worth keeping close. What he had not planned for was this feeling. Loss, not of control, of something better. By mid-afternoon, the estate felt too large, too quiet. He walked through rooms he had barely noticed before, the formal dining room where they had shared meals, the hallway where Matteo had once run ahead, laughing softly until Camilla had shushed him. He stopped outside the guest suite Camilla had occupied. The door was open. The room was empty. No clothes in the closet, no books on the nightstand, no sign she had ever been there except for one thing. On the desk sat a folded piece of paper. He picked it up slowly and opened it. It was not the contract. It was a single sentence, written in neat, careful handwriting. Security without dignity is not safety. His chest tightened. He folded the paper again and slipped it into his pocket, as if afraid it might disappear. That night, he did not sleep. He sat in the study with only one lamp on, the rest of the house dark. Around midnight, he opened a locked drawer he had not touched in years. Inside lay old photographs and yellowed letters. His mother's handwriting was round and steady, the ink faded but legible. He picked one up at random and read, "Power will never love you back," she had written. "But people might if you let them." He closed his eyes. He had not let them. He had turned his life into walls and rules and contracts. He had confused control for safety. And in doing so, he had become the very thing his mother warned him against. By dawn, a decision had formed, not sharp, not sudden, but heavy and unavoidable. For the first time, he would not move to contain damage. He would face it. 2 days later, Camilla sat in the common room of the church shelter, folding donated clothes with careful hands. The room smelled of detergent and coffee. Voices murmured softly around her. Someone laughed near the door. Matteo sat at a low table with other children, coloring pictures of houses and trees. They had been here before. Not this shelter, but others like it. Still, this one felt different. Ms. Ruth moved through the room like a steady current, checking in on everyone without hovering. She stopped beside Camilla and set a mug down in front of her. "Drink," she said. "You need it." Camilla wrapped her hands around the mug. The warmth seeped into her fingers. "Thank you." Ms. Ruth watched her for a moment. "You did the right thing." Camilla nodded, though her chest ached. "It doesn't feel like it." "It rarely does at first," Ms. Ruth said. "But peace doesn't shout. It settles." Camilla looked over at Matteo. He laughed as another child accidentally colored outside the lines. "We'll be okay," Camilla said, more to herself than anyone else. Ms. Ruth smiled. "I know." That same afternoon, a quiet storm broke far from the shelter. In a glass-walled boardroom downtown, the man stood at the head of the table. Board members stared back at him, surprised, alert, uneasy. He did not sit. "I'm placing my executive authority on temporary hold," he said. The room erupted. "Are you serious?" One man demanded. "This is highly irregular." Another snapped. He raised a hand. Silence fell. "I authorized unethical leverage against a private citizen," he continued, his voice steady. "That violates both our internal code and my own standards. Effective immediately, the contract division is dissolved. All related files will be reviewed by an independent ethics panel." Faces went pale. "You're exposing yourself," someone hissed. "Yes," he replied. "I am." He placed a folder on the table. "These are the documents. Full access. No conditions." No one spoke. He straightened. I will step back until the review concludes. If the board chooses to remove me permanently, I will not contest it. The meeting ended in stunned silence. By evening, whispers had spread through the company. Shock, confusion, fear, but something else too, relief. Late that night, the man returned to the estate alone. He walked the ground slowly, the trees whispering in the breeze. The house lights were low. He did not turn them on. He stood where he and Camilla had once watched the city lights and felt something break open inside him. For the first time, he did not want power. He wanted forgiveness. But he knew better than to ask for it cheaply. 3 days later, a black car pulled up. Not to a penthouse, not to an estate, but to a modest church building. The driver waited. The man stepped out alone. He wore no suit, no watch, no armor. Inside, the shelter hummed with quiet life. Camilla looked up from her folding when she sensed him before she saw him. Their eyes met across the room. The past rushed in. The hurt, the anger, the memory of that tablet glowing in the dim light. She stood slowly. He did not approach right away. He waited until she nodded once. Then he walked forward and stopped a respectful distance away. I'm not here to ask you to come back, he said quietly. I'm here to tell you I was wrong. The room seemed to hold its breath. Camilla crossed her arms, guarding her heart. That doesn't fix what you did. No, he agreed. It doesn't. He swallowed. I dismantled the contract system. I stepped down. Everything you uncovered is being reviewed, publicly. Her eyes searched his face, looking for manipulation. She found none. Why? She asked. Because I saw myself, he said, and I didn't like the man I had become. Silence stretched. Matteo wandered over, curious. He looked up at the man. Are you the serious man? A flicker of something like shame crossed the man's face. Yes, he said gently. Matteo studied him. You made my mum cry. Camilla's breath caught. Yes, the man said. I did. Matteo frowned. That's not nice. No, he said again. It isn't. Matteo thought for a moment, then nodded. Okay. He wandered back to his coloring. Camilla exhaled slowly. I'm not coming back, she said. I know. The man replied. She tilted her head. Then why are you here? Because control took something from me, he said softly. And honesty is the only way I know how to give it back. Tears filled Camilla's eyes, but she did not let them fall. You don't get to decide what comes next, she said. I do. I understand, he replied. She studied him for a long moment, then said, We can talk. Nothing more. His shoulders sagged just a little. That's more than I deserve. She turned away, then paused. But it's a start. As he walked back out into the evening, the man felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Not victory, not power, hope. And for the first time, it did not scare him. Camilla did not sleep much that night either, not because she felt trapped the way she had at the estate, but because her mind would not quiet down. The man's apology kept replaying in her head, how he had stood in the shelter without his suit, without his cold voice, without the hard look that used to make rooms shrink. He had said, I was wrong. Those words were rare in her world, even rarer from someone like him. Still, Camilla had learned something the hard way. A soft voice could hide sharp intentions. She could not afford to be fooled again. Not when Matteo's peace depended on her staying clear-eyed. At dawn, she rose from the thin shelter mattress and watched Matteo sleep. His face was relaxed, his small chest rising and falling slowly. She brushed a curl off his forehead and whispered, We're going to be okay. She meant it, but believing it was still hard. The shelter morning moved in simple routines. Breakfast was served in paper bowls. People lined up quietly, tired but polite. Camilla helped clean tables afterward, wiping crumbs and folding napkins. Ms. Ruth watched her with that steady, knowing look. "You're doing too much," Ms. Ruth said. Camilla gave a small shrug. "If I keep moving, I don't fall apart." Ms. Ruth leaned closer. "You don't have to earn help, Camilla. You're allowed to receive it." Camilla's throat tightened. She looked away, pretending to focus on the rag in her hands. "It's hard," she admitted. "I know," Ms. Ruth said softly. "But you're not alone." Later that morning, Matteo sat with a volunteer tutor near the corner, reading aloud from a children's book. His voice stumbled on long words, but he tried again, cheeks puffing out with effort. Camilla listened from across the room, her heart swelling. Stability was not just a roof. It was moments like this: calm learning, safe laughter, steady meals. The shelter was not the life she wanted, but it was life. It was community. It was breathing room. At noon, Camilla's phone buzzed, a number she didn't recognize. She stared at it, hesitating, then answered. "Hello?" A woman spoke, calm and professional. "Ms. Camilla R.? Yes. My name is Diane. I'm calling on behalf of an independent ethics panel. We are conducting a review into certain corporate practices related to personal contracts and housing pressure tactics. Your name was listed as a directly affected individual." Camilla's stomach tightened. "How did you get my number?" "The shelter director provided it with your consent on file." The woman said quickly, "You are not required to speak with us, but your testimony could help ensure this does not happen to others." Camilla's hand shook around the phone. "He's really doing it," she whispered. "I'm sorry?" Diane asked. Camilla cleared her throat. "What do you need from me?" "Only what you are comfortable sharing," Diane replied. "We can meet in a public space, a church office, a legal aid center, your choice." Camilla looked at Matteo, still reading, his voice rising with pride as he finished a page. Her chest lifted and sank all at once. "I'll meet," she said, "but I won't be alone." "Of course," Diane replied. "We'll schedule for tomorrow afternoon." When the call ended, Camilla sat down slowly, feeling the weight of it. If the review was real, then the man had done something most powerful people refused to do. He had opened the door to consequences. Across town, consequences were already taking shape. News outlets spoke in sharp tones. Analysts questioned motives. Social media ran wild with theories. Some people called the man a hero for self-reporting. Others called it a stunt to avoid a bigger scandal. Inside the company, the board moved fast. An emergency executive team was formed. Lawyers pored over documents. People who had once smiled in meetings now spoke carefully, guarding their words like coins. The man sat through interviews with the ethics panel without flinching. He answered questions directly. He did not blame assistants. He did not hide behind policy. When asked why he had done it, he said only, "Because I harmed someone I should have protected." That answer did not satisfy the media, but it satisfied something deeper. The next day, Camilla met Diane in a small legal aid office near the church. Ms. Ruth sat beside Camilla, hands folded, calm as a mountain. Matteo sat in a corner with crayons, drawing a house with a big sun over it. Diane was in her mid-40s, dressed simply, eyes kind but alert. She listened as Camilla spoke. Camilla described the eviction, the agency ad, the penthouse, the bank account lock, the contract, the tablet. Her voice shook at times, but she kept going. Diane took notes. "Did he ever physically harm you?" she asked gently. "No," Camilla said, "but he used my life like a lever, and my child was the weight on the other side." Diane's eyes softened. "That matters," she said. "Coercion isn't always loud." When the meeting ended, Diane stood. "Thank you," she said sincerely. "What you did today will protect others." Camilla nodded, exhausted. "I don't want revenge," she said quietly. "I just don't want this to happen again." Diane gave a small, firm smile. "That's the right reason." That evening, as Camilla and Matteo walked back to the shelter, Matteo held her hand and kicked at little pebbles in the sidewalk. "Mom?" he asked. "Yes, baby." "Are we going to live in a house again?" Camilla's throat tightened. She squeezed his hand. "Yes," she said. "We are." "How do you know?" he asked. Camilla looked down at him. His eyes were wide, open, and trusting. She took a slow breath. "Because people are helping us," she said, "and because we're not giving up." Matteo nodded like that made perfect sense. "Okay." He paused, then asked, "Is the serious man still serious?" Camilla almost smiled. "Probably," she admitted. Matteo frowned. "Is he sorry?" Camilla hesitated. "I think he is," she said carefully. Matteo looked ahead. "If you're sorry, you should fix it," he said matter-of-factly. Camilla's heart squeezed. "That's true," she whispered. 2 days later, a letter arrived at the shelter addressed to Camilla. It was not from the man directly. It was from the housing foundation connected to his company. Inside was a simple notice. Camilla R. and Matteo R. have been approved for immediate placement in transitional housing, with support services included. No conditions, no contract, no repayment required. Camilla stared at the words until her vision blurred. Ms. Ruth read it once, then placed a hand over Camilla's. "Look at God," she whispered. Camilla pressed her lips together, trying not to cry in front of everyone. But tears slipped out anyway. They fell onto the paper and darkened the ink. Across the room, Matteo looked up. "Mom?" he asked. Camilla held up the letter with shaking hands. "We got a place," she said. Matteo's eyes grew huge. "A real place. A real place," Camilla said, laughing through tears. He jumped up and ran to her, hugging her hard. "We're okay," he shouted. People in the shelter smiled. Someone clapped softly. Someone whispered, "Thank you, Lord." Camilla held her son and breathed him in. For the first time in weeks, the future did not feel like a wall. It felt like a door. That night, Camilla sat on her shelter mattress after Matteo fell asleep, the letter folded carefully beside her pillow, like a treasure. Her phone buzzed, a single text message from an unknown number. "You didn't owe me your time. Thank you for giving it. I won't push again." Camilla stared at the screen. No demands, no threats, no pressure. Just a quiet line that did not try to pull her back. Her eyes filled again, but this time the tears felt different. Still cautious, still wounded, but softer. She set the phone down and whispered a prayer. "Help me forgive wisely," she said, "and help me keep my boundaries strong." Outside, the shelter window, streetlights glowed steady in the dark. And somewhere beyond the city noise, a ruthless man was learning, step by step, what it meant to be held accountable, not by a contract, but by conscience. Moving day arrived with a grey sky and a soft wind that smelled like rain. Camilla woke before the shelter lights came on, heart racing like she might wake up and find out the letter had been a dream. But the paper was still there beside her pillow, folded neatly. She touched it with her fingertips, almost like she was checking if it was real. It was real. A place to live. A key. A chance to breathe without fear waiting at the door. Matteo rolled over and blinked up at her. "Is today the day?" Camilla smiled, warm and tired all at once. "Yes, baby," she whispered. "Today's the day." He sat up, hair sticking up, eyes shining. "Do we have a room for my stuff?" "You'll have your own room," Camilla said. Matteo gasped like she'd handed him the moon. Then he jumped up and started stuffing crayons into his backpack with serious focus. Camilla laughed quietly. For the first time in a long time, laughter didn't feel like something she had to force. Ms. Ruth helped them load their bags into an old church van. It wasn't much. 2 duffels, a few donated boxes, Mateo's worn stuffed bear, and Camilla's Bible held close like a lifeline. But it was theirs. It was a life moving forward. As the van drove through the city, Camilla watched the streets pass and felt her chest loosen. The world still had problems. Bills still existed. People still judged. But the ground beneath her feet was finally steady enough to stand on. The transitional housing building wasn't fancy. It was clean, bright, with a small playground out front and a community office near the entrance. A woman in a cardigan greeted them, smiling like she actually meant it. "Welcome," she said. "We're glad you're here." Camilla held Mateo's hand tightly as they rode the elevator up. Their apartment was small but warm. 2 bedrooms, a little kitchen, a sofa that didn't sag, fresh paint, a window that let in light. Mateo ran from room to room, shouting, "This one is mine! This one is mine!" like it was the best news he'd ever heard. Camilla stood in the doorway and pressed a hand to her mouth. Tears rose fast. Not because the place was big, because it was safe, because she had made it. Ms. Ruth hugged her, squeezing tight. "See?" she whispered. "God always makes a way." Camilla nodded, crying into her shoulder. "Thank you," she breathed. Ms. Ruth pulled back and looked her in the eye. "Don't thank me," she said. "Thank the one who kept you standing." Camilla laughed softly through tears. "I am," she said. "I am." That afternoon, after boxes were unpacked and Mateo had tested the bed springs like it was a trampoline, Camilla finally sat down at the kitchen table with a cup of tea. Her hands still shook a little. Relief could do that. Make your body feel the weight it had been holding. Her phone buzzed. A notification from a news app. Billionaire CEO steps down amid ethics review, dissolves private contract division. Camilla's stomach tightened. She clicked it, then stopped herself. She didn't need details. She already knew the heart of it. He had exposed himself. The question was why. She set the phone down and tried to focus on her son's laughter drifting from his room. Then a knock came at the door. Camilla froze. The apartment was new. No one was supposed to know them here yet. Another knock came. Soft, not demanding. Patient. Camilla stood slowly and walked to the door. She looked through the peephole. Her breath caught. It was him. No suit, no guards, no assistants. Just the man, standing alone in the hallway with his hands at his sides like he didn't know what to do with them. Camilla's heart thudded hard. She didn't open the door right away. She leaned her forehead against the wood for one steadying breath. Boundaries, she reminded herself. Wisdom. Then she opened the door just enough to stand in the doorway. "What are you doing here?" she asked, voice low. He met her eyes. He looked tired. Not the rich kind of tired. The human kind. "I came to apologize again," he said quietly. "And to do it properly." Camilla's jaw tightened. "You already apologized." "I spoke words," he said, "but I owe you more than words." Camilla kept her hand on the door, ready to close it. "I'm not interested in being pulled back into your world." He nodded. "I'm not asking you to return." That surprised her enough to make her blink. "I didn't tell you where we moved," she said, suspicion returning. He looked down for a moment. "I asked Ms. Ruth for permission to visit," he admitted. "She said she would only give your address if I promised to come alone and leave if you said no." Camilla swallowed. Ms. Ruth had done that, without telling her? Then she realized Ms. Ruth trusted her strength, not his. "What do you want?" Camilla asked. He took a slow breath. 5 minutes, he said. In the hallway, if you prefer. No pressure, no request, just 5 minutes. Camilla hesitated. Behind her, Matteo's voice floated out. Mom, who is it? Camilla's heart jumped. She glanced back toward the bedroom. The man's gaze shifted past her shoulder, and his face softened. That's him, he said quietly, almost to himself. Camilla stiffened. Don't. He lifted his hands slightly, palms open. I won't cross your line. He promised. Camilla took a breath and stepped into the hallway, closing the door behind her. She did not lock it, but she stayed close enough to feel safe. Talk, she said. He nodded, swallowing once. I stepped down, he began. Not as a strategy, not to protect the company, but because I needed to face what I did. Camilla's face stayed guarded. And I dismantled the contract program completely. He continued. Every file is being reviewed by outside ethics investigators. Anyone harmed by it will receive support without conditions. Camilla felt something twist in her chest. Support can't undo what happened. No, he said, but it can stop it from happening again. She studied him. Why are you telling me this? He held her gaze, and his voice turned even softer. Because you were the first person in a long time who looked at me like I was a man, not a myth. And you told the truth even when it cost you. Camilla's throat tightened. It did cost me. I know, he said, his eyes flashed with pain. And I'm sorry. Silence sat between them. Camilla's voice came out steady, but her hands trembled. You took away my choices, she said. You used my hunger like a tool. He nodded, shame clear now. Yes. She waited for excuses. None came. He shifted slightly, like he wanted to step closer but didn't dare. I came today because I wanted to say something out loud, where it matters, he said. Camilla narrowed her eyes. What? He inhaled slowly. You were right, he said. Security without dignity is not safety. Camilla's breath caught. He continued, voice rougher now. I built my life around fear. I called it control. I called it protection. But it was just fear wearing a suit. Camilla's eyes filled, and she hated that they did. She had promised herself she wouldn't be moved by his words. But it wasn't just words. It was humility. Real humility, the kind that didn't demand a reward. She cleared her throat. What are you expecting from me? She asked. He shook his head. Nothing, he said firmly. Not forgiveness today. Not friendship. Not a second chance. I'm not entitled to any of that. Camilla stared at him, trying to find the trap. There wasn't one. Her shoulders lowered a fraction. Then why risk coming here? He answered honestly. Because I needed you to know your pain wasn't invisible, he said. And because when I walk back into my life, I want to walk differently. Camilla swallowed hard. You think this makes you a better person? No, he said. I think it makes me accountable. Better is something I have to earn over time. Another silence. From inside the apartment, Matteo's footsteps padded closer to the door. Camilla tensed. The man looked at the door, then back at her. If he sees me, I'll stay polite, but I won't speak unless you allow it. Camilla nodded slowly. Okay. The door opened a crack. Matteo's face peeked out, his eyes widened. It's the serious man. The man lowered himself slightly, keeping distance. Hello, he said gently. Matteo frowned. Are you still serious? A small, tired smile touched the man's mouth. Yes, he admitted, but I'm trying to be better. Matteo stared for a moment, then said, Mom said you made her cry. The man's expression sobered. I did. he said, "and I regret it." Matteo looked up at Camilla. Is he in trouble? Camilla's throat tightened. She reached for Matteo's hand. He's facing consequences, she said carefully. That means he's trying to fix what he did. Matteo nodded slowly, like he was working it out. Then he said, very plainly, if you hurt people, you have to say sorry and do better. The man's eyes glistened, just slightly. You're right, he said. Matteo studied him one more time, then stepped back behind Camilla. Okay, he decided. Camilla looked at the man again. You got your 5 minutes, she said. He nodded. Yes. She hesitated, then said, you can check in sometimes, but you don't get to just show up, you ask, through Ms. Ruth or the shelter director. He bowed his head. Understood. Camilla's voice softened despite herself. And if you ever try to control my life again, I won't, he said quickly. I swear to you. Camilla nodded once, holding his gaze until she believed him as much as she could. Then she stepped back toward the door. Goodbye, she said. He paused. Camilla, he began, then stopped, remembering her boundary about names. He corrected himself. I'm sorry, he said again, quieter this time. Truly. Camilla did not answer with forgiveness. Not yet, but she did something she never expected. She let the door close gently instead of slamming it. Inside, Matteo looked up at her. Is he going to be nice now? Camilla sat on her knees and pulled Matteo close. I don't know, she admitted, but I know this. People can change if they choose to. Matteo nodded, satisfied. Okay, he said. Can we eat dinner now? Camilla laughed softly, wiping her eyes. Yes, she said. We can eat dinner now. As she stood to start the meal, Camilla felt the smallest shift inside her. Not trust, not love, but something like the first thin crack in a wall that had kept her heart protected. And sometimes that was how healing began. Camilla woke to sunlight spilling through the thin curtains, warm and steady, the kind that didn't rush her out of bed. For a moment she lay still and listened to the sounds of the apartment. The hum of the refrigerator, a distant laugh from the playground outside, the soft breathing of her son down the hall. This place still felt new, still felt fragile, but it was theirs. She rose quietly and padded into the kitchen. Matteo was already awake, sitting at the small table with his workbook open, tongue peeking out as he concentrated. You're up early, Camilla said. Matteo looked up and grinned. I wanted to finish before school. Ms. Ruth says finishing things feels good. Camilla smiled and poured cereal into a bowl. Ms. Ruth is right. As Matteo ate, Camilla checked her phone. A message waited from Ms. Ruth, sent earlier that morning. Called. Asked permission to pass along a job lead. I told him only if you agreed, and only if it was clean. Camilla stared at the screen, her chest tightening slightly. Even now, her body reacted before her mind could catch up. Control had taught her to brace first and think later. She typed back slowly. Okay, only information. No pressure. The reply came a minute later. Understood, he's learning. Camilla set the phone down and exhaled. Learning was good, but learning didn't erase harm. That afternoon, Camilla walked Matteo to school for the first time from their new place. He skipped beside her, backpack bouncing, pointing out cracks in the sidewalk like they were treasures. Mom, he said suddenly, do we live here for real? Camilla squeezed his hand. Yes, baby, for real. He smiled so wide it made her throat ache. After dropping him off, Camilla walked back slowly, letting herself feel the quiet pride of the moment. No running, no hiding, no fear of being told to move along. At home, she made tea and sat at the table, pulling out the folded paper Ms. Ruth had dropped off earlier. It was a job listing for a community outreach coordinator. Full-time. Benefits, modest pay, but steady. The organization worked with housing support and family services, work that felt close to her bones. Camilla read it twice. It didn't mention him. Not once. She nodded to herself. That mattered. In the early evening, Camilla returned to Ms. Ruth's house so Matteo could stay there for an hour. Ms. Ruth handed him a sandwich and sent him off to the living room with a gentle shoo. "You sure about meeting him?" Ms. Ruth asked quietly. Camilla nodded. "Public place. 1 hour. And I leave if it feels wrong." Ms. Ruth smiled. "That's wisdom." The community center cafe smelled like coffee and baked bread. Seniors played cards at one table. A volunteer stacked flyers near the wall. Camilla chose a seat where she could see the door. He arrived on time. No suit, no entourage, just a dark jacket and tired eyes. He stopped when he saw her, waiting. Camilla lifted her chin once, and he approached. "Thank you for meeting me," he said. "Sit," Camilla replied. He did. They sat in silence for a moment, the noise of the cafe filling the space between them. "I won't take much of your time," he said. "I only wanted to give you something and explain why." Camilla folded her arms. "Go on." He slid the job listing toward her, keeping his hand on the table but not touching hers. "This came through a partner group. I didn't arrange it. I only asked permission to pass it on." Camilla glanced at it. "I'll decide on my own." "As you should," he said. She studied him. "You look different." He gave a faint nod. "I feel different." "That doesn't undo what you did," she said. "I know," he replied. "I don't expect it to." Camilla held his gaze. "Then why are you here?" He took a slow breath. "Because I needed you to know that I didn't walk away from the truth once it became uncomfortable," he said. "And because I wanted to say this clearly." She waited. "I was wrong," he said. "Not just in method, in belief. I thought control kept people safe. You showed me it only keeps them small." Her chest tightened despite her effort to stay guarded. She spoke carefully. "Words are easy." "Yes," he agreed. "That's why I'm trying to let actions speak." Camilla nodded once. "Good." The clock on the wall ticked. She checked it briefly. "You don't get access to my life," she said. "Not my home, not my child, not my choices." "I understand," he said without hesitation. "And if we speak again," she continued, "it will be slow, and it will stop the moment it feels wrong." He met her eyes. "That's fair." A silence settled between them, lighter than before, but still cautious. From across the room, someone laughed. A card slapped the table. Camilla felt her shoulders ease just a little. She stood. "That's our hour." He stood too. "Thank you." Camilla picked up the job paper and tucked it into her bag. "I'll call them," she said. "For me." He nodded. "Of course." As she turned to leave, she paused. "Keep choosing accountability," she said, "even when no one's watching." He nodded slowly. "I will." Later that night, Camilla tucked Matteo into bed. He yawned and rolled onto his side. "Did you talk to the serious man?" he asked sleepily. "Yes," Camilla said. "Is he still serious?" She smiled softly. "Yes, but he's trying to be better." Matteo nodded, satisfied. "That's good," he murmured, already drifting off. Camilla sat on the edge of the bed and watched her son sleep. For the first time, she felt something steady settle inside her. Not trust, not forgiveness, but peace with herself. And that, she knew, was the strongest foundation she could build. The months that followed unfolded quietly, the way real healing often does. Camilla started the new job and found herself surrounded by people who understood struggle not as a weakness, but as a place where compassion begins. She worked long days, but they were honest days, filled with purpose. Each paycheck felt earned, not owed. Matteo settled into school with ease, his laughter returning in full, unguarded bursts. He made friends, learned quickly, and slept through the night without fear of being uprooted. The man kept his distance, just as promised. His name appeared only in news updates about reforms, accountability, and changes that reached beyond headlines into real lives. When they spoke, it was brief and respectful, never forced. One afternoon, Camilla watched Matteo play in the courtyard of their building, the sun warm on her face. She realized something important had happened. Her life no longer felt like something she was surviving. It felt like something she was living. And that, she knew, was the truest kind of victory. The afternoon sun rested gently over the community center, warming the brick walls and the small garden out front. Camilla stood beside a folding table, handing out plates of food with steady hands and an easy smile. The work was simple, honest, the kind that left her tired in the right way. Matteo darted between tables, laughing as he helped an older volunteer stack napkins. He had grown taller, surer of himself. His voice carried without fear now, bright and clear. Across the room, the man worked quietly, sleeves rolled up, listening more than he spoke. No one treated him like someone important, and for the first time he seemed grateful for that. When he caught Camilla's eye, he nodded. No expectation in the gesture, only respect. Later, when the room had emptied and the sun dipped lower, Camilla and Matteo stepped outside. Matteo ran ahead to the garden, pointing out a tomato plant heavy with fruit. "Mom," he said, proud. "We helped." Camilla smiled, resting a hand on his shoulder. "Yes," she said. "We did." The man joined them at a careful distance. "Thank you for letting me be here," he said quietly. Camilla considered him. The past did not vanish. It never would, but the present stood solid and true. "We're all still learning," she said. "That's what matters." He nodded, accepting the answer as it was. As they parted ways, Camilla felt no rush, no pull backward, only forward. She took Matteo's hand and walked home beneath a sky turning gold. That night, as Matteo slept and the city hummed softly beyond the window, Camilla felt something settle deep within her, a peace earned through courage, truth, and choice. Her life was no longer defined by what had been taken from her. It was defined by what she had built, and it was enough. Thank you for being here. If something in this story stayed with you, I'd love to see you again. Subscribe, and tomorrow I'll bring you another story crafted with heart.